Welcome to the show and welcome to Glow So Bright. In today's episode, I'll be talking about politics. And no, I'm not going to go talk about the 2024 presidential election of the United States. Well, that is indeed topical for this time. I have scripted, filmed, edited, and shot this video in advance. So, whatever happened in there, I just don't know right now. But what about politics? Well, I'm going to talk about the consequences of me having this rifle, and that is from the Maryland assault weapons ban in 2013. And I'm wondering, why? Why do I have this AR-15? What's so special about it? What sets it apart from any other rifle? Well, I have this rifle configured with a 16-inch barrel to attempt to have a handy trail carbine with a heavy barrel, and that seems kind of like an oxymoron. But speaking of morons, I'll go talk about the people who made this assault weapons ban law. So, what is the Maryland assault weapons ban law? Well, the Maryland assault weapons ban law was enacted on October 1st, 2013 by the then Governor Martin O'Malley. The body of the text essentially takes most of it from the 1994 federal assault weapons ban and adds a few tweaks and changes to it. Much of these would be banning firearms by name, like in the 1994 assault weapons ban, so things that are labeled as Colt AR-15, the FAMAS, the Uzi, the AK-47, and those types of rifles. Other legacy firearms that were banned by name during the assault weapons ban law, like the Tech-9, and among others, I think the Street Sweeper is one of them. Or copycat weapons. What is a copycat weapon? Well, a copycat weapon is a semi-automatic firearm that has these copycat features that make it an assault weapon. These features include things such as what they deem as a flash hider, a grenade launcher, and I'm not talking about the M203 underslung grenade launcher attachment. I'm talking about things such as on the Yugo M70 rifle or the grenade launching attachment on an Yugoslav SKS rifle, those types of grenade launchers. And within the Maryland state law text, other features such as having a overall length of 29 inches, having a folding stock, a shotgun with a revolving cylinder, which I don't know if that'd be the revolving cylinder of a street sweeper or protective shotgun, or if it's one of those rotating cylinder attachments on a competition shotgun, a fixed magazine over 10 rounds. The Maryland assault weapons ban also prohibits the sale or transfer of magazines that are over 10 rounds. This would include handgun magazines, rifle magazines. However, possessing them is not unlawful. For example, someone who lives in Maryland can go to West Virginia, Pennsylvania, all neighboring states, purchase magazines there, and bring them back to their state of Maryland, and not be in trouble with having them. However, it just makes it more of a pain in the ass. So now that we got the general gist of what the Maryland assault weapons ban is, why did they put it in there in the first place? Well, they thought it'd be a band-aid solution to a systematic problem within the state of Maryland of rising violent crime, people being spooked by the DC sniper attacks, people being completely ignorant on what the function and use and mechanisms of what a firearm is. And they thought it'd be a band-aid solution for these sorts of systematic problems with a corrupt, incompetent, and sociopathic culture. Trust me, I lived in Maryland for 3 years when I was under active assignment in the U.S. Army. And frankly, a lot of the people I find there are either stupid or sociopathic or both. But in practice, the Maryland assault weapons ban law would just infringe on the natural rights of the citizenry who live in the state, does nothing at all to create an appreciable impact on violent crime in the state, much like the 1994 federal assault weapons ban law. Any sort of interpretation or enforcement of the law or any sort of new firearms that enter the market would be viewed at, without rhyme or reason, arbitrarily by the Maryland State Police. And this sort of law, which is viewed as some sort of thing to improve public safety, doesn't actually stop the actual criminals who are causing problems in the first place, ones who are already prohibited from owning firearms. And this is from me being at the butt end of an active shooter incident within that state. Now, I'll go highlight one absurdity of the Maryland assault weapons ban law and why it doesn't really cause anything except for a burden on the lawful citizen. This particular AR-15, just by the merit of having a heavy barrel, makes it lawful. Otherwise, everything else is just standard on it. Same identical design, same identical operating mechanism, most of the same features, and it takes standard 30-round box magazines. Now I can take this rifle, put 30 rounds through it, mag dump it into a general direction, and I'll take another rifle that is banned within the state of Maryland but takes otherwise identical parts, put 30 rounds through it, mag dump through that, and does it make any sort of appreciable difference at all between these two rifles? No, there isn't. So, what makes a barrel a heavy barrel within the state of Maryland? There isn't anything in the law or statute that talks about what makes a barrel a heavy barrel in an AR-15. Nothing to do with barrel thickness, nothing to do about gas block journal width, nothing at all. So, what is a heavy barrel within the state of Maryland? I have no idea.
You want to go play a game? It's called Which Ruger AR-15 is Banned and Not? Take a guess. Oops, too late.
Okay, here's another absurdity of the Maryland assault weapons ban law. So we established that this particular rifle, which is deemed as safe under the Maryland state assault weapons ban law just because of it having a heavy barrel, even though it's chambered in .556, takes the same magazines and ammunition as one that is deemed as unsafe, but handles identically to it for the most part. What if we have this particular rifle, same exact parts for the most part, except for one thing. We swap out the Spikes tactical lower receiver with that manufactured by Bushmaster. Even though it has the same aluminum lower receiver, perhaps a slightly different trigger pocket, same materials, but otherwise identical except for who made it and what brand it is on it, it's now considered illegal. What difference does that make? I'd say none. So we've established that a heavy barrel .556 caliber AR-15 is lawful under the law as long as it's not made by Bushmaster. But that's not as consistent as you think. Let's take a look at Colt, for example. The Colt AR-15, banned within the state of Maryland. However, the Colt AR-15 Sporter H-Bar, that's seen as a lawful rifle. Now, other Colt firearms. The Colt SOCOM rifle, a rifle with a 14.5-inch barrel, a A2 muzzle device, a telescopic stock, a rifle that closely mimics the appearance of a military M4 carbine, except with a semi-automatic low receiver group, semi-automatic trigger, and a few minor changes here and there, a pinned and welded flash hider with a spacer on it. That is exempt under the Maryland state assault weapons ban law. However, do you know what's banned? The Colt 6920 M4 SOCOM. Both rifles are made in the same factory, same barrel, same stock, same lower receiver group, same parts. Both rifles are identical, except for one minor difference. The roll mark over here, one says 6920 on the serial number, LE6920 on the lower receiver, a little correction, but the one that is allowed says CR6920. Now, what is the difference between LR and CR? One letter, but what else? There is none. What kind of consistency is there in that? Okay, so we ran through the gambit of .556 caliber direct impingement AR-15 rifles and what is banned and what is not. Well, what if we want the piston AR-15? Well, the HK MR556, a AR-18 style piston AR-15, is allowed within the state of Maryland as determined by the Maryland State Police. Well, what about the SIG 516? That is banned. And what is also banned? The Adams Arms AR-15 conversion kit. Now, both of these rifles, or all three of these rifles, have very similar operating mechanisms. but only one is deemed safe by the Maryland State Police. Why? I don't know. You tell me. Now, any of these rifles chambered in other calibers, like, say, 300 Blackout, 6.5 Grendel, 7.62 by 39, 308, those rifles, for the most part, are allowed within the state of Maryland. Now, what makes one caliber better than a 5.56 or different or more safe? I don't know. Also, AR-15 pistols are allowed within the state of Maryland, and SBRs, which have all the scary assault rifle features like flash hider, the folding stock, all that stuff, completely allowed. Even automatic AR-15 derivatives, such as civilian versions of the M16 rifle with an automatic trigger pack, those are allowed. Those are actual assault rifles. Now, what about Kalashnikovs? Well, this particular rifle, a AKM pattern rifle, chambered in 7.62 by 39 with a 16-inch barrel, a Romanian-made Wazir 10, it does not have any sort of scary features. It doesn't have a flash suppressor. It doesn't have a folding stock. The overall length of it is over 29 inches. It does not have a grenade launcher attachment. This particular rifle is banned within the state of Maryland. But do you know what isn't banned? A 5.45 caliber AK-74. But not all of them. Okay, so for 5.45 caliber semi-automatic AK pattern rifles, some are banned or some are not. For example, the Arsenal Bulgarian-made SLR 105 rifle is not banned within the state of Maryland. Yet the Riley Defense AK-74, a AK-74 pattern rifle with the same caliber and same barrel length and same features, is banned. What's the difference between the two rifles? I don't know. What makes one unsafe in the state of Maryland, one exempt? I don't know. Now let's look at Yugoslav-based Kalashnikov rifles. The M70 chambered in 7.62 by 39 is a banned firearm. However, the 5.56 caliber AK is fine under them. But another 5.56 caliber AK, the Galil, is banned within the state of Maryland, but not all of them. For example, the Galil Ace Gen 1 chambered in 7.62 by NATO, that is an exempt firearm. But the Gen 2 rifle is banned within the state of Maryland. So what makes them different other than some incremental changes? I don't know. You tell me. For other AK pattern rifles out there, the Draco pistols, AK pistols that are chambered in 7.62 by 39 with a barrel shorter than 16 inches, that is completely allowed. As well as automatic AK-47 rifles, actual machine guns. Those are allowed within the state of Maryland. Okay, let's talk about M14s, a rifle that the Fuds like with a steel action and a wooden stock. No spooky pistol grips over here, just a good old M14. Well, that is banned within the state of Maryland. The ones manufactured by Springfield, the Springfield M1A, the Bula M21, and the domestically produced within Maryland Fulton M14, those are all banned within the state of Maryland. But the Norenko M14, which takes the same stock, the same barrel, that is exempt within the state of Maryland. That rifle is functionally identical to the other ones that are banned. Well, I guess Norenko being a product of communists makes it have a soft spot for the Maryland state government, huh? Yet, the BM-59, the Beretta BM-59, that is banned within the state of Maryland too, even though the receiver is that of an M1 Garand. It just takes the 20-round detachable box magazines, but totally different than an M14. But the M1 Garand, an actual weapon of war, is not banned within the state of Maryland. The M1 Garand also has grenade launching capabilities. Let's take a look at the Mini 14. A very traditional rifle that doesn't have the scary assault weapon features, but if you just remove the wooden stock and replace it with a folding stock, it's now banned within the state. Yet if you have a Mini 30 or a Mini 300 Blackout and put the same folding stock on it, it's an okay firearm. Why? I don't know. So that we've established that this law does not deter crime, it infringes on the natural rights of the citizenry, has no sort of logic, rhyme, or reason whatsoever, and is enforced and determined arbitrarily by the Maryland State Police, who do not have the accountability standards of that of other parts of the government. Has this law been challenged within the courts? Yes, multiple times. Even though in an earlier ruling before this law, 2008 DC v. Heller, the Supreme Court has determined that the Second Amendment offers protection to arms found in common use by the citizenry, and the AR-15 is one of the most common patterns of long arms in this country. Yet, in a Fourth Circuit court, Judge Robert King wrote, "Put simply, we have no power to extend Second Amendment protections to weapons of war." And basically the court has determined that these assault weapons aren't protected under the Second Amendment. Yet, actual weapons of war, such as Fudd's hunting rifle based off the Lee Enfield that's all bubbled up, or the M1 Garand, are allowed within the state of Maryland. Yeah, we can also get sidetracked and go talk about the history of the United States going all the way back to the Revolutionary War, in which the citizenry would try and have weapons that meet or exceed what the British military had, where they had the most powerful army in the world and the most powerful navy. And the citizenry of the United States, these Americans would have military-issued Brown Bess muskets, would have cannons, would have fully equipped warships. Commander John Paul Jones even commandeered one, sailed all the way to the British Isles, and even burned a few towns to the ground. Or we can take a look at General George Washington and the men underneath him. Were they to revolt against the tyrannical government, the British Crown, and to have, to the best of their ability, arms that meet or exceed what the British military has, with the intent to have an armed revolution against that tyrannical government.
In 2022, the state of Delaware has also created their own version of the assault weapons ban, largely copied from Maryland's assault weapons ban from 2013.
Okay, let's go to 2024, present year. In Bianchi v. Brown, challenging the Maryland assault weapons ban, the Supreme Court had decided to not hear about this, as a federal court has upheld the Maryland assault weapons ban law. So what if you're a resident of a freedom-loving state like in Arizona or in Texas or Alaska or Missouri or Mississippi, among others? Well, what if you're in the United States military and you get put on active duty and be stuck in that state? Well, now you're under their laws and their rules and your rights are infringed. And keep in mind that these people, members of the United States military, most of them are citizens. Other people living in the state, they are citizens too. Citizens of the United States, where we have natural rights for freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, and the prevention of unnecessary search and seizure. But one thing is that in Maryland, you have cases like the shooting of Duncan Lemp, where he's in bed and gets no-knock raided by the Montgomery County SWAT. He gets killed right next to his pregnant girlfriend, and they refuse to release body cam footage or details despite numerous Freedom of Information Act requests. It's an overreach of the government, and this has killed people, let alone animals such as that squirrel and raccoon over in New York. So in conclusion, even state-level assault weapons ban laws, like the one in Maryland, will ultimately impact your ability as a citizen of this whole country to defend yourself against a tyrannical government and that of the common criminal threat. And it is a clear infringement of the natural rights as enforced by the Constitution of this country. Laws like this, if introduced and passed in your state, are difficult to remove through the courts. They have no appreciable benefit for public safety, nor the reduction of violent crime. And these laws are just at the interpretation of law enforcement agencies within the state that have no rhyme or reason in enforcing it. And with the case of, say, Duncan Lemp, they have no accountability when it comes to killing you. So, act accordingly. I'm not your lawyer. This is not legal advice. And if you do enjoy this video on the absurdity of the 2013 Maryland assault weapons ban, go ahead and like this video, comment down below on what you think, read the video description if you'd like to see more content just like this, subscribe and ring that bell. I know it's aggravating, like how I feel aggravated towards this law and me having to follow it when I was stuck living in the state. But I greatly thank you for your time, and thank you for watching, and thank you for being the over 200 subscriber to this video. I greatly thank you guys. Thanks for watching.